friends, Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop. And this is actually a remake of a video that I released and then pulled back due to all the flack I was getting. You know, I have nobody to blame but myself. I knew it was going to do that. I just knew it, and yet I put it out anyway. Whenever you put out a video on YouTube, you got to be ready. Because if you don't explain every little detail, you'll get emails and comments out the wazoo, and it's just like, it'll drive you crazy because most of them are implying that you're a knucklehead and you don't know how to do this or that or whatever. But in this particular case, it was probably true because I put out the video on a mechanism that I'll show you here in a little bit that someone sent to me, very kindly of them to send it to me. And, you know, at the time I made the video on that mechanism, I didn't really truly understand it. And I understood 80% of it. There was only about 10 or 20% of it that I didn't really understand. And then by the time I actually edited the video, I did understand that as well. So I truly understood the whole thing. And I put the additional understanding in the comments or in the text on the screen, but apparently either people didn't read it or I wasn't very clear in my text, which is probably the latter. And so anyway, make a long story short, it was just a total disaster. It was really kind of a three-part video, and the first two parts was some news about my website. The second part was another gift from another viewer, which was just super wonderful. And then the last thing is this mechanism that we're going to talk about. So hopefully I'll do better this time. Hello friends, Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop. Just a little bit of channel news and website news. First of all, I just want to tell you thank you for all the support you've been giving me on all my videos and everything. I really do appreciate that. I also want to mention that for those of you who have tried to purchase the DVD set online at my website, there was a number of problems reported to me. I am not the best programmer, if you will, for working on that, but I do it all myself. I got in there today and I believe I fixed the problem. So if you had trouble or experienced trouble trying to purchase the DVD set online on my website, I think it's fixed now. Let me know, please, if you're still having any trouble. You can email me at rosastringworks@gmail.com. Just wanted to show you a few gifts that I've received just in the last day or so. This first one is I guess you would say a laser etching. And this one's from my brother Scott, who I think you probably saw in a video, a while back now, probably over a year ago now, on a guitar that I built for him. And he was playing and singing. And so he just etched my logo there. And that's kind of cool. I'll probably just hang that on my door here. Thank you, Scott. Got this t-shirt from an anonymous source. I don't know who sent this to me. At least I couldn't find any information on the package. But I'll let you get it up close there and let you just read it. And hopefully you'll see the humor in that. I gotta be the first one to tell you that I know almost nothing about formal music. You know, I know there are lines and spaces and there's notes on there and there's you know, what they call a treble clef and a bass clef. And as far as I know, that's what these are here, treble clef and a bass clef. And so this is music humor. Which I think is pretty funny too. So I really appreciate it. I just wish I knew who sent it to me so I could say thank you. Okay, so what is this mechanism that a viewer sent to me? I thought I was fairly clear that I thought this was the coolest thing ever, that I thought he did an amazing job designing it. And I said thank you, at least I thought I did in the video. But apparently people didn't think I was grateful enough. Well, I am truly grateful. I really am. I love this thing. I think it's the coolest thing since sliced bread. But he sent it to me to use as far as I can tell, you know, and his note basically said that. And his note also said, I built this just for a one-off fix. He said, I really have no use for it anymore. I just wanted to fix a crack at the very back of the guitar, you know, back by the tail block, I guess. And he said I could see the crack from the outside, and I made this device to locate a patch back there. Awesome. I got no problem with that whatsoever. I think it's the coolest thing, like I said, ever. Way over designed, way overdone for a one-time fix, you know. But that's okay. I got no problem with that. He's a machinist, and machinists do what machinists do. And I'm telling you, he must be a pretty darn good machinist because this thing is cool. So here it is. You know, you can see here, it's actually got a crank on it here. I really should have just taken the leather off because the leather gets in the way here. The strap to hold it on here, but you can spin this crank like so, and when you're spinning this crank you can see the gearing here, and it turns a shaft inside of this tube, and it turns a shaft all the way down here, and it spins this, and this raises or lowers this. As a matter of fact, I've got that laser in there very loosely, and I'll turn this and you can probably see that the laser is going up, you know, and now it's going down. And what's really, really cool about this design, even though this shaft is spinning here, this table is not spinning. So you could glue your patch on here and the patch will just go straight up, straight down perfectly. Okay, that's how it basically works. My confusion came in on the need for this laser, and I also was confused at the beginning thinking that this was kind of like a C-clamp, that this was the top clamping bar and you would press something between these. Well, that's not how he designed it at all. And literally by the time I posted the video and edited the video, I thoroughly understood that. I knew exactly how this thing worked by the time I posted the video. But obviously taking the easy way out and just putting the notes in the text box just didn't cut it. All right, so here's how it is designed to work. You can see it's very long reach. It would reach pretty darn far back in the guitar, probably almost to the tail block in most guitars. This mechanism here is fairly large, so you can see that that's going to eat up a pretty big chunk of the sound hole. If the sound hole's like this, so this mechanism is going to be in there. It won't be too movable. You can't move it forwards or backwards too much. A little bit, yeah, but not a lot. This pushes against the back of the guitar. This pushes against the top of the guitar. This thing, you just use this laser to line up the patch, and then when you put it in there, you can use that same laser to line up the crack on the top of the guitar. You know that you're right under it and you're good to go. Then you just get this thing out of your way entirely, and you put an external clamp around the whole thing to keep from pushing your guitar apart. That was part of my misunderstanding at the beginning was, you know, I didn't understand that he was talking about putting a total external clamp around the guitar, which is necessary. And I would have done that as well if I had designed this in this manner. Because it doesn't take all that much force to push a guitar apart. Trust me. From when you're pushing on the back and pushing on the top and you're turning something mechanical, you could just bust it wide open. And especially you could crack brittle grains like, not so much the spruce, although you could crack that, but like rosewood is pretty darn brittle, and the lines are running the length of the back and you're pushing a lot of force on it, you can bust it pretty easily. Okay, so I hope that's clear on how this thing works. It's not designed at all to be like a C-clamp, okay? And it is only designed to push from the back to the top. And this is only designed to line it up. That's what that's for, and then it's out of your life after you get it lined up. He sent it to me to be used, you know, to be utilized. Well, the way it is, I mean, I'm just going to be brutally blunt. I've already talked to the customer and told him that for me to use this, it needs to be modified. He's got no problem with that. In fact, he suggested how I might modify it. So, you know, I don't know what else to say. I'm not ungrateful. It's just that if he sent it to me to use it, right now, to be honest, 99 times out of 100, it's just wall art hanging on the wall because I'm not going to be able to use it unless the crack is in that very specific location that he was fixing on his guitar. And the odds of that happening are pretty slim. In fact, most of the time, here's the reality of the situation. You know, what most people didn't understand in that first video is what he was doing isn't the norm at all in terms of repairs. I would say at least 80% of the time when you're trying to repair something inside a guitar, you can't see it from the outside. I would really like to say it's more like 90% because it's quite a bit. You very rarely can see the problem from the outside. It's almost always from the inside. So that's problem number one. So the laser is only effective once in a while anyway. Okay, so that's issue number one, for it to be useful for me. I mean, so in other words, the laser it's nice to have, but it's not a deal breaker one way or the other. So then, you know, what's the other issue? Well, the other issue is the bigger issue, and that is the length of this makes it only usable in one spot inside the guitar. Let me try to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've got a simulation here of a guitar top. This inner circle is the size of a Martin guitar sound hole. So that's, you know, fairly small. This is the back edge. This is going to be down in the hole. So this is as far back this way as you can go. When you see that, now I'm even being a little lenient on that. You can see that you can go from here, you can come back this far, and that's as far, and then you can sort of swing it, and so you've got a radius here that you can use this in. This is the only place this thing will work, and then you can move it up, and you know, you can catch in here. That's about as far in as you can go. So it goes into just about where the block is, and you know, it reaches, so it just kind of reaches this area right here. Well, the reality of the situation is, for my purposes, this is where you need to use it, in this area. Very rarely do I ever need to get anything way back here. I mean, it happens. I've done it, but it's really rare. You know, like 1 out of 1,000 repairs will be way back here, and you know, the rest of them are going to be up in this area, especially around where the bridge goes, because that's where all the stress is. So, you know, as cool as this thing is, and as neatly designed and made as it is, it's just wall art unless I can use it. So I can't use it most of the time, which is in this area here. And even up in this area would be awesome if you could turn it around and get up in this area. But you can't, obviously, it's not going to work. So I hope that clears up what my issue is with it. It's a wonderful tool. It's the coolest thing ever. It puts the thing that StewMac has to shame so bad it's not even funny. Okay, the design flaw for making it useful, it's not a design flaw for what he did and how he used it. It's perfect for that. And he even admits in his letter to me that it was a one-off thing. He says, I know I'm crazy. He says, but I just used a machinist approach to fixing my problem. And I got no problem with that whatsoever. More power to him. Like I said, the coolest fix I've ever seen. But I want to make this thing useful for me. All right, so the first idea you would run across, you know, would be make this thing telescope, you know, and slide together where it can slide in like this. That would be awesome. That would be the coolest thing in the world. It probably wouldn't even be that hard to do, except for one thing. There's a shaft inside of this tube that is spinning. You notice when you turn this doesn't turn, but that does. So obviously there's something inside of here that's turning. That is turning, but that's not. So this deal here is just a, you know, it's kind of like a spacer, if you will, just to hold this back in place. All right, so I asked him, I said, well, how do you think I might modify that thing? Do you have any good idea? And he goes, well, my first thought would be that you just make variable lengths of this. So in other words, you'd make a shorter tube like this and a shorter shaft on the inside. that may be the only viable option. That wouldn't be too bad, except for the fact that then you've got a lot of tear down, take apart, put back together time. You know, you'd have to take the shaft out of the inside, take it all apart here, put a shorter shaft on with a shorter shaft on the inside too, and, you know, make it all work. Honestly, if it was about this long, for the most part, it would be more useful than this long. You know, there might be an optimum length, and I'm going to try to figure out what that is, and then I'll make me a shaft that's about there for the majority of the repairs that I see. And, you know, you've got a little bit of flexibility. If I could make 2 more shafts, well, then I could get, you know, into the short areas, the middle areas, and then the long areas. So I hope that clears it up for everybody. Again, I am not looking a gift horse in the mouth. That's what some of the comments were. Some of the comments were, you should just say thank you like your mother told you. Well, you know, fine. I could do that. That's not a problem. But the reality is, he sent it to me to use the thing. How am I going to use it like it is? I can't really use it the way it is. It needs to be modified. I've talked to him about it. He's good with that. I'm sure he would love to see this thing being used in future videos. And I'm going to do my best to do that because I think it's the coolest thing ever. I wish I had designed this. I mean, but except that the only difference is I would have tried to figure out a way to make it adjustable. He didn't need to do that. That wasn't his mission, you know. But I truly don't see a good way to make it adjustable. You know, you could sort of telescope this middle tube and let the inner shaft slide through, and I might try that. The only thing I've got against that is when something slides through, it sticks out and it kind of gets in the way. But to be honest, that would be more useful if it could telescope and somehow slide in and out. So if I telescope this outer shaft and let this one slide through, you know, the inner shaft slide through this thing, that might work. I don't know for sure. I got to take it apart and see how it's made. That's going to be a separate video all into itself. All I can say right now is, David, thank you, thank you, thank you. I wish I had thought of it. All right, I hope that clears up the water for the rest of you guys. Get off my back. Give me a thumbs up if you would, if you still can stand me. If not, I understand. Have a good day.